Hello, Legends and Star Pals. It's Lindsay Turner and Sarah Knoll here with your August 2025 month ahead forecast. I don't know, the year is just flying by so quickly, Sarah. It's kind of freaking me
Yes.
out. Every time we record one of these, I'm like, oh, now we're well over halfway through the year.
Yep. We have passed the
Yeah,
halfway mark.
we are. It is Leo season. We love it. We're loving it. Leo season. I was like singing Sarah onto the call while she was, I don't know what she was doing in her house, but I was like, and Lizzle, my dizzle. And we're dressed alike. We were just saying for the first time ever, both wearing
Yeah,
white.
we
Sarah
really
isn't
are.
Saturnian clad.
Exactly. A
Yes.
beverage.
What's your bet? What are you drinking today?
I'm drinking water. It's still
Always
Saturnian in
smart for
some
an
ways over here.
I mean, always smart for an Aries moon, though, to be drinking some water. August, we got lots to talk about today. We're gonna start off actually, though, by just doing a little bit of a review. We, in July, had Uranus move into Gemini, and then, of course, we're still kind of freshly into Saturn and Aries, which started at the end of May. Sarah, I'm curious for you if the Uranus transit, if you have noticed anything in your own personal life or maybe in the collective that feels particularly Uranian vis-a-vis Gemini.
Yeah. I've loved our conversations about this, watching it play out so far. And I think like sometimes happens maybe with outers, but what sometimes happens with some planets is when they've been in a certain place and they move to a new place, depending on where that is in your own natal chart, you can feel it like that it's leaving somewhere even more than it's arrived somewhere. And since Uranus in Taurus has been in my 10th house, in the most like visible place in my chart, I'm feeling more that Uranus has moved off of that like high visibility point for me where it has rested over and had a huge influence on how I show up publicly, who I like, my public identity, and a lot of things around my profession and vocation has felt very Uranian during the time that Uranus has been in that 10th house placement in Taurus. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think I'm feeling its departure, maybe even more than its arrival into Gemini in my 11th. So I'm curious for you because our charts
Yeah.
are a couple of clicks apart. Like, what has
Yeah.
that felt like for you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I have noticed its absence and the kind of absence of that like upheaval, sudden change, unpredictability in my eighth house, which I actually just left the housing co-op partnership that I was in. And so that was like a very marked, like Uranus left my eighth house of shared resources, and I left this, huge representation of shared resources in my life,
Yes.
probably one of the biggest. And so I agree that, and that eighth house place is feeling less charged now. Now, there are still some loose ends that have to be tied up with that. And I imagine that when Uranus goes back into
Yeah.
Taurus for a little bit longer, that will be the time that those loose ends are tied up. And so, yeah, but I'm grateful for you that it's not just lording over your
Yeah.
whole deal.
Yeah. When we talked about this and how it's looking for us personally, I really loved that, like, that we noted that, like, the things that we could say Uranus brought as shorthand, the things that were happening in our life that were reflected in Uranus's transit and vice versa. I don't know that we have a lot of regrets. Like, I don't know that I regret the outcome, but the the process was pretty brutally painful at times. And I think that's my relationship with Uranus is like it brings things in Uranian form. So it's unexpected, it's disruptive, it's electrically charged. I talk about a singed feeling sometimes with whatever Uranus is up to in my life. It feels like a live wire or like the smell of a hair dryer that's about to go bad or something like that. But
Oh,
like what happens at the end of that storm, that disruptive storm, I'm so grateful for where it is now. So it's like a storm that you agree to ride. It always goes better if you do, if you sort of like let fate, like happen with some sense of like keeping my agency, but also sort of some submission to the process because it's going to happen one way or another. That's been really helpful in reflecting on what the Uranus and Taurus years were like for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And we were talking about too when we were discussing just planetary movement through the chart in general is that, Uranus moving through Taurus might have represented certain events that happened in our lives, but it could also be, someone in your life that acted as a Uranian figure that was unpredictable or kind of unsettled or sparked a lot of change and revolution for better or worse. And also, how am I,
Yeah.
Uranus, in this area of my life? How am I disrupting the norms? How am I bringing a revolutionary signature to this area of my life? And I'm thinking about that a lot as Uranus moves into my ninth house, which is associated with astrology, publishing, writing, philosophies, the church, all of these things. And I'm like, whoo, how am I about to Uranus these topics? And I feel like a building excitement around
Ooh,
that. Yeah. And I
exciting.
personally, I love ninth and third house transits because I feel like they're like kind of neutral. Like they're like, I don't know, like eclipses in the third and ninth for me have been really nice. And so, yeah, I'm feeling more excited about it than I was about it moving into Taurus, which I was actually like fairly conscious of when it was going on.
Mm,
Oh, we also did not mention politically what is going
yeah.
on. We are seeing our global politics and national politics becoming more and more charged. We have mentioned, and lots of astrologers are mentioning, the correlation of Uranus and Gemini with some of our worst conflicts in US history, the Civil War and World War II. And then, of course, Uranus was in Gemini when our country was founded with the Revolutionary War. So, excuse me, it's it's not looking great out
Hmm.
there. I'm still praying and hoping against war, as always, and don't want to fearmonger. But yeah, I think it is important to mention that that is an established pattern and something that I have kind of one eye on at all times. It feels like these days.
Yeah, I just before we signed on saw a video that's circulating of Israeli teenagers burning their military enlistment documentation, and
Mm,
I immediately thought of Uranus and Gemini. I immediately thought of like I'm going to burn this paper. Like I'm not going to participate in this. I'm going to disrupt this process from the inside. It was like the burning of a draft paper is so feels like so Uranus and Gemini to me. This message,
yeah.
I don't even want to. I'm moving out of it. It was really powerful to me to see
Yeah.
that.
Ugh, I'm disrupting these words. And it
Hmm.
also harkens back, which was the next thing that we were going to talk about, to Saturn and Aries during Vietnam. And that was also when we saw a lot of
Yeah.
like the burning of draft cards. And so I think together, whew, these are two really, this is a powerful alignment that we're having between Saturn and Uranus. And that sextile is not one that happens very often. And it was something that I was looking at this year as being important. And of course, a lot of people overlook sextiles because they tend to be, I don't know, well, they're Venusian, so they tend to be like easier. I don't, it feels like strangely sexist to me that astrologers overlook sextiles, but
I like that you're pointing that out. I like that.
maybe that's for a different conversation.
It is, but let's make a note of it because we need to come back to that. That's a really important point.
Yeah, it's like everything else is important except for Venus's aspect, which is kind of like, as a
Hmm.
Venusian, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Actually,
Yeah,
I
I
am
bet
sure I
not.
don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm wondering, how has Saturn and Aries, if you're able to cite any particular examples from your own life. I know there's probably some more tender things happening for you as it's approaching your moon. But yeah, if the Saturn and Aries is showing up for you in any particular way.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really thinking about is how much I'm longing for clarity, like simplicity and clarity in what I learn and teach to my students. So, like as a teacher by profession, whatever I'm reading or pulling in for my own consumption is usually, or like a huge chunk of it is usually for like how I can offer it to my students and like teach it to them. And I can feel this like really intense need to have that be simple and clear. So like really letting a
Mm,
lot of extra stuff go that I've really loved, or it's fun, or I don't know where to put it, but I just like it. I'm like clearing the decks. I'm going to be working really closely with someone who is like apprenticing into my profession. And I'm really noticing that in order to do good work for like modeling and mentoring for him, I need to be very simple and very clear so that he can learn the things he needs
interesting.
to learn. So that's one thing. But I'm also keeping track of this retrograde. So, like, Saturn has made its first station in retrograde in Aries here and is going to retrograde actually all the way back into and through Pisces, right? We're going to dip back in and do a little
Hmm.
Pisces run here,
Hmm.
excuse me, for the second half of the year. And I'm thinking, about how when Saturn turns retrograde, automatically I go to the houses in my chart that Saturn rules. And I'm already also seeing a revisiting of some old themes of my Capricorn and Aquarian houses too. So
Wow.
I'm thinking about how, yeah, revisiting is, I always welcome the revisiting. I was actually thinking I want to talk about this. Another thing I want to talk about sometime is therapy as retrograde. And so, like, yeah, it's like that's another thing we're going
Ooh.
to talk about,
Put it in the
sexism
parking
and
lot.
sextile sexism and retrograde therapy is retrograde
Hmm.
and vice versa, retrograde as like a therapeutic reflective experience and opportunity. And I'm
Hmm.
just experiencing that with this first turn. And I guess that's as specific as I want to be right now. But what
Yeah,
about for
that's
you?
fine. That's
How is
fine.
the sextile between Uranus and Saturn showing up for you so far?
I'm definitely thinking about my collaborative partnerships for sure, including mine with you. We've been talking about some fun projects.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think just really I think as I'm moving out of my 30s, I just turned 39 and into my 40s, I'm starting to kind of reorient to partnership a little bit less in terms of like, oh, is this someone I'm gonna settle down and build a family with? And more like, is this partnership just gonna be simple,
Yeah.
simple, direct, and the right thing for me? I don't know. It's like just kind of a simpler orientation to it. Like, does
Yeah.
it feel good? Is it working? Is my partner kind? Do they celebrate me? Okay, cool. That's like, all right. So yeah, that's been it hasn't it's been a little bit like nicer than I expected it to be personally. On a political level, I do I am associating and sort of tracking the genocide in Palestine with Saturn and Aries and sort of these movements and the just talk about lack of structures, right? It's been a violent hostile takeover of structures, disabling anyone's ability to eat. And it's horrifying. It's horrifying. I think I feel the powerlessness of the fallen Saturn. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, the sort of like, how many emails can I send my representatives? Like, I don't like it feels like they're just going into the void,
It does.
and I'm not sure what to do. And I saw a video, God, I saw a video of folks in Egypt putting food into plastic water bottles and tossing them into the sea and like praying to God that they would
Oh my
wash up on
God.
the shores. And I was like, that feels like such a Saturn and Aries image, right? Like, I have no idea how to deliver this thing that the system for delivery has been totally ripped apart for. So I'm gonna MacGyver it. I'm gonna wing it, right? I'm gonna like put food in a bottle and pray to God that it
Oh
gets
my
there.
God.
And that is feeling like the more sour,
Mm-hmm.
diabolical expression of Saturn and Aries right now. That feels like the loudest one to me for sure. And then, of course, all of the systems and structures in our country that are being dismantled right
Yes.
now. And then this, encouragement for states to start locking up people who are homeless, who have addiction, who have mental illness. It's like, what? Like, goodness. Yeah, again, that just like violent kind of martial law expression that we were, anticipating, unfortunately, with Saturn and Aries.
Yes, the literal just removing of people from spaces
Mhm.
and the rounding up of people into hidden temporary dwelling is like so loud for me.
Mhm.
It's everywhere and awful.
Mhm.
It's awful.
And boy, did you really call it with that image of Mars, who is dispositing Saturn, right? Mars rules Aries, and so is sort of like the boss in a way of Saturn right now, hitting the South Node,
Oh my
and
gosh.
people just getting sucked out, right? What and
Yes.
in whatever, either disappeared, but I recall reading in the news, right, when basically it hit like famine 5 or whatever is the kind
Yeah.
of end stages of famine for a population, or forced starvation is such a more apt term for, a more honest term for it, was Mars hitting the South Node, and thinking of the South Node as this mouthless, headless, hungry body. And God, it's so literal, so visceral. And I don't say this because I think it's the way it has to be. I think it's like a really tragic expression of the astrology, and that we as humans can do so much better. We really,
Yeah.
I just feel so let down
Hmm.
by all of this. And it's not about my feelings about it, but it's just like awful. It's just, I don't even, it's who has like the right words for it. I don't know.
Hmm.
Not me.
Hmm. Yeah. It
Yeah.
is an incredibly despairing time,
Yeah.
truly.
Yeah. It's really bad, and it's difficult to celebrate the personal or interpersonal wins, and even the local collective wins, but I think it's so important that we do,
It is.
and try to honor also that exalted Jupiter in Cancer, and what is coming of that, of people really banding together and caring for each other as the systems are stripped away, right? And saying, all
Hmm.
right, you know what? If y'all aren't going to provide this, we're going to provide it for each other. We have each other.
Hmm. Yeah, we've been talking about watching Jupiter in Cancer, and Venus will approach and move into Cancer soon, and talking about how our benefics, like huddled in the moon's home,
Hmm.
it is sort of a visual representation of exactly what you're talking about. It's this opportunity to remember there are very good things, they are worth celebrating, they are magic, and sometimes they are the magic that enables us to keep going in the midst of this kind of overwhelming despair.
Yeah, the hope against hope. Even though it is set in this horrific context, the fact that there are people stuffing food into bottles and throwing it into the sea and praying to God that it gets to the mouth of a hungry person, is of a starving person, is it gives me hope.
Hmm.
I think most of us are really quite good and doing really wonderful things, and I think it is a sad stage in human history where people have so much power and are willing to do so much violence with it. And I have hope that we will see our way through it, but it will come at great cost. It already has come at great cost. So there we are with Saturn and Aries. Why don't we transition into August? And somehow I deleted the ingress dates. How did that? Here, I'm
Oh,
gonna hit.
lovely.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
got it.
I tried to reorganize the document, and Mercury retrograde said, no, you won't. Just leave it as it is. It was funny today. I was meeting with a client, and I was like, knock on wood, I have not had a Mercury retrograde moment yet today, except for solar fire. My astrology software crashed, so I just need to reopen it and pull your chart. And guess whose chart was no longer stored?
The client.
The
I told you, all of mine disappeared. They are all gone and I cannot recover the files. I've been in like help and like all of this. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted your story.
No,
Keep
no, it was
going.
just my, it was like every other chart that I could imagine was in there
Was
except for,
still there.
except for
Just the
my
one you
clients.
needed.
I was like, that was so specific. It felt personal.
It does feel a little too personal in a moment like that. Like here I am in the session. Where the fuck is the fucking chart?
So funny. Well, good news, everyone, is that Mercury does station direct on August 11th. So we are still working with this retrograde energy for the first third of the month, but then it goes direct at 4 Leo. If you have any planets or placements between 15 degrees Leo and 4 degrees Leo, these are going to be directly impacted by the retrograde. And yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts so far on this Leo retrograde for you, Sarah?
Yes. So I love a Mercury retrograde, and it comes with my mercurial, I think my natal privilege, that I usually have found like a delight or pleasure or at least depth of experience and learning and reflection for Mercury retrograde. I will say that I think Pluto in Aquarius is making this one a little bit more difficult for me, this opposition. It's bringing things up from the underworld that I don't know if I necessarily want to revisit. And so that's making it feel more intense, but it's definitely through my first house, it's definitely giving me the chance to go, okay, these things that I've thought about before, I've dealt with before, here they are again. They're wanting to be, they're wanting air and water, and they're wanting to be able to breathe again and come up to the surface. And so I tried to take those as they come and have my own ways of doing grounding and taking care of myself so that when stuff does come up, I can sort of say, okay, this feels like it's going to be one of those themes. Again, I think when you know a retrograde cycle is coming and you know it's coming through a place that's like prominent in your chart, you can sort of like putting on your rain boots and your raincoat and grabbing your umbrella, you can sort of be prepared for like, this might feel kind of intense. And so can't take away the intensity. I can't prevent the revisiting of themes that's going to come, but I can have my wits about me when it does.
Yes, yes. I was talking with my mentee, Hank, and we were talking about how Mercury retrogrades, we think that they're fun. And one of our hypotheses was that we are both queer. And I
Yep.
think you and I have talked about this before too,
Yes.
is that as queer people, we're sort of never expecting the norm, right? Whether it's to be performing the norm or to being accommodated by the norm. And so, yeah, I kind of enjoy Mercury retrogrades a lot because for me, they're always this moment of, ooh, I just like need to brainstorm and like, how am I going
Yes.
to do this thing differently? And
Yes.
it's so generative for me. I always am like getting out my notebook and like, like making charts and even if I never look at it again, it's just this like really fun time of processing for me. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And for me personally, it's been this story of discovering I'm having 3 Mercury returns, which is interesting. So you'll notice sometimes a
Ah,
planet will station
yes.
retrograde while you're having a return with that planet.
Yes.
And then you get 3 returns in a row, and it's really wild. So I'm in this 3-part drama about
Mm-hmm.
my eyes. The first part
Ah,
was learning that my prescription that I've had for 20 years is like the opposite of what it should be, and that I'm truly farsighted, but that sometimes farsighted people's eyes are like, guess what? We're going to pretend to be nearsighted and like totally overcompensate
right.
and give you eye strain forever. And so the discovery, yeah, was on the day of the first return. And then Mercury stationed on my moon. And that was the day that I got my new frames in the mail. And the moon signifies lenses in astrology.
Yeah.
It's too good. It's
It
too good.
is.
And then, yeah, yesterday I went in and I knew I was getting the first contact lenses because I went for contacts that I was prescribed, and one of them just like didn't fit quite right. And I was like, I knew that this was
Yeah.
not going to be
Oof.
the end of the story because Mercury is still retrograde. So she's
Yep.
going to order a different brand to see if they fit better. So, yeah, just I love a Mercury retrograde, even though they can be annoying.
They can be. Yes. If you're in charge of something or pulling something off and a lot of stuff falls to you, it can be more treacherous. But if you
Hmm.
are in a place where you can be like, ooh, this didn't go how we thought. Well, I wonder what we're going to learn. Then it can be kind of lovely and wonderful.
Yeah.
Really. You can figure out all kinds of other ways to do it. I really love you're pointing out queerness. Queerness is connection to Mercury and the nature of Mercury, and
Hmm.
the fact that for those of us who have identities that fall into those categories, we're used to not fitting, and we're also used to having to figure out how to make something work when there's no model or mold presented that feels like it fits. Yeah, a Mercury retrograde is like made for us, you know? We can be
Countercultural,
the
baby.
cheerleaders of that. Yeah, that's really good. I'm
Yes,
glad you're saying that.
yes. So by the end of the month, August 25th, Mercury is going to pass that 15-degree mark of Leo where it's stationed retrograde. So in modern times we say it'll be out of shadow. So probably what will happen is that there will be some resolution. If there was kind of an overarching like Mercury retrograde story for you, hopefully it will be all wrapped up by the end of the month. So yeah, I heard a hilarious and tragic story of my friend's boyfriend took his car. There's something wrong with his car, and they said you have to drive your car 300 miles at 60 miles per hour in order to like fix some issue. And I was like, isn't that the plot of Speed? Like,
It is. That's right. They just had to keep going.
and I was like,
Oh
but then he
my
was like, my tank
gosh.
doesn't even hold that much gas.
There's no way to do that. You have to have somebody pull up beside you and like open your tank and like pour the gas in. That's really
So
dangerous.
funny. And then, so he had to park his car like outside because of whatever the shenanigans were going on with it. And the day of the Mars South Node conjunction, which also, we talk about like poop a lot with Mars South Node conjunctions. I guess like a flock of birds just like shit all over the car, like just like covered in bird shit. And I was like,
Lovely.
oh, what a Mercury retrograde story ruling a Mars South Node conjunction. Just chef's kiss.
Yeah, right.
Really, really. All right. So, in terms of ingresses for August, Sarah, do you want to run through those?
Sure. So it looks like we have three things to watch in terms of planets changing signs. We've got Mars going into Libra, we've got the Sun going into Virgo, and we've got Venus going into Leo.
Love that for me. I love my Venus return. It's always so fun.
I was gonna say
It's so
Venus
much more fun than
return.
my birthday. It's always like, I'm like, birthday, okay, Venus return, that's the one to look
Yeah, we
for.
on birthday cards that I send to people, I always say happy solar return. I never say happy birthday. And it's a really great, yeah, what you're pointing out, it's a really great moment to realize that we have our solar return, which we think of as our birthday, but we have all of these planets, they started, quote unquote, in a certain place when we were born. And when they come back around, we are revisiting those things. And so it
Hmm.
totally makes sense for a Libra rising person to feel the power of the Venus return, like especially
Hmm.
prominently in their life. I love that.
And it's lucky that those of us who have inner planets as our ascendant ruler get to have that return pretty much
Yeah,
annually. And shout out to Sarah because it's going to be your solar return in August.
that's
Happy
right.
birthday, Leo love.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
It's fun. And like for those who are listening or watching this, a solar return is a particular kind of reading that you can get with an astrologer around your birthday as sort of
Hmm.
thinking about what some themes of the year ahead might be. And my solar return for this year that's about to end was bleak. And
You had that
yeah, it
Jupiter
was
Saturn square.
really rough, like super rough.
Poor
And
mama.
it's been, yeah, it's been a difficult year in a lot of ways. And it's really fun to look at the solar return for the next year and be like, woo, I'm excited to just work with anything else. It's kind of like how sometimes you talk about Mars going into Libra, which for me is like one of the worst things I can think of. And for you, you're like, it's out of my 12th, baby. Let's
Yeah,
go.
exactly. I'm just great. Yeah. It's like those bumper stickers that they had during the last presidential election. It was like literally anyone else, like literally any functioning adult, like
Yes.
2020, whatever, what year was it? 2024. Yeah, so funny. Yeah, I think Mars into Libra. One thing that has been important that we've noted, and we've been doing this for a couple of years now, is that we have noticed that Mars into Libra is a good underdog transit
Yeah.
for war. So putting that out there, we've just noticed in the past that like Mars in Libra and also in Taurus correlated to positive developments in Palestine. So, God, we need a miracle. So maybe that's something to hope for, pray for, look forward to. And Mars and Libra can be, I think, really nice for kind of like diplomatic strategy, right? It's basically taking Mars out of its sign that can be associated with war and putting it into the sign that's associated with connection and relationship and diplomacy. So that's my political hope for Mars and Libra. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. But it's also can be sort of like trying to hammer a nail with the sharp end of a hammer. Like it's just
I sometimes experience Mars and Libra correlating with an uptick in passive aggressive relations. And I don't love it. I like it. Moon and Aries, I like it out there. I like it straightforward. I like it blunt. Even if it hurts me, just hurt me blunt. Mars and Libra is not a hurt me blunt transit.
Yeah, yeah, it is a sort of like, well, I just won't invite you because I don't want you there rather than just telling you.
Oh, even you coming up with the hypotheticals is activating for me. So
I'm
yeah,
so
let's.
sorry.
I need
All
to
right, we're
do some of
triggering
that.
Sarah. Yeah, let's who's we're gonna talk about Sun into Virgo. Yeah, we get Sun into Virgo, Virgo season. Time to get ready, back to school sales. We're
Yes.
shopping notebooks. We're shopping highlighters. We're shopping pens and pencils. We are getting ready.
Yeah, we're harvesting, we're gathering, we're storing.
Yeah.
We're taking the basking that we did during the sun in that fixed fire, and we're coming inside from the pool, and we're putting all of our stuff away and checking what we have. Are we hungry? Are we thirsty? What do we need to be doing? What do we need to be dispersing to other people? Yeah, so Virgo season is a great time just for I think for counting our resources and thinking about what is fair and good.
Yeah, yeah, and really planning and organizing, right? Leo can be a little chaotic. It can be a little like I'm gonna just like get a can of paint and paint the walls and not even put down a drop cloth. And then Virgo comes in and is like, my God, let's clean this stuff up. And I think that's always a misconception about Virgo too, is that Virgos are really clean. No, no, no. They want to be in the dirt, cleaning. They don't care if they're dirty as long as they are in the process of
Oh, that's
cleanliness.
a great distinction. That's such the difference between a noun and a verb, right? Cleaning versus
Yes.
clean state. Yeah, I love that.
And it's always the time of year when you and I are like, all right, let's think about next year.
Yeah.
Let's get our shit together for the Advent devotional. It's coming up here. We're just a
Yep.
quarter turn away. So, yeah, I appreciate Virgo season. I actually really do. It is my 12th house season, but I've always loved just holing up for a month and planning. Yeah, and imagining the realities that could be possible if I planned well enough for them. That's Virgo porn right there.
Totally.
And then August 25th, we get Venus into Leo, which this is something I have in my nativity. And yeah, it's one of my favorite transits because of that. But I just think it's a really fun, like, we get Venus all month. She's going to be in Cancer, which is very sweet, maybe to the point of saccharine. But there's a closeness and a sweetness with that that gets a little like dried off. She gets out of the pool in Leo, and
That's
is
a good
like,
way to put it.
yeah, is like, all right, let's make our way to post pool margaritas
Mm.
or whatever. Like we had our share, we bonded, we swam together, we cried, whatever. Now let's go like have some fun.
I like that a lot. And also I think about Venus and Leo as an opportunity for love of self too. And
Yeah.
then Venus in Cancer is always going to be about the like noticeable grasp of the love of the other. And so I like thinking about
Mhm.
Venus and Leo as like a little bit of turn to self, like self-love, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It kind of switches the orientation of its attunement. Yeah, and it's great. And they're both really fun transits for their own reasons. And yeah, Venus and Cancer is a great time to get close and just tell people how much you love them, how much you appreciate them. And then Venus and Leo is like, okay, I'm gonna go do my makeup now.
Now that you're all taken care of, bye.
Ah, I know. I just found my like hot pink Barbie lipstick that I had misplaced in the move yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, it's a Leo
Fantastic.
miracle." Uh,
Yeah, it's a Leo new moon miracle. I really like that.
exactly, exactly. Oh, I'm all blurry all of a sudden. That's all right. Okay, why don't we talk about the lunations for the month? And wow, it is clearly Mercury and Leo because we are like,
Yeah, we're like, oh my God, save it for later. Oh my God, make a note. Oh my God, this is so awesome. Oh my God, I just had this thought. Yeah, it's Leo
oh
season.
my God, let
So
me talk
our
about me for a second.
exactly.
All right, so let us begin with our August 9th full moon in Aquarius. It is at 17 degrees of Aquarius. And what are we noticing about this chart, Sarah?
Full moon. We're on the full moon, right? I'm sorry.
Hmm. You're doing so good. You're doing
Yeah,
so
this
good.
is going great so far. One thing to really notice about this full moon is that it captures the Mars Saturn opposition, which is
Oof.
kind of a big thing during this month of August.
I'll
And
say it. It's a bitch.
it's kind of a bitch. And
It's
it's like
kind of a
8 minutes
bitch.
from exact at this a full moon. So I think that the full moon the full moon's happening in the fixed axis in the Leo Aquarius axis, and 2 clicks over in a cardinal axis. Again, we're looking at that Mars in Libra that we were just referencing before, and Saturn and Aries that we've talked about. I think that's going to feel really loud in the midst of this lunation. So
Yeah.
that's one of the first things I think to
It's
point
feeling
out.
like tyrants versus really ardent peacemakers, maybe, but it's like a standoff. Oppositions are standoffs, right? Like it is either or. It is very hard to integrate both. And these are the malefics in the signs of their fall and exile. Like,
Exactly.
ooh.
Yeah, it's like maleficing in in bad circumstances. It's like when when yeah. It's yucky. It's like the standoff with the jagged edge tools that are like wrong for the time, and it's happening at the wrong time of the night, and yeah, the circumstances are bad and the actors are bad. It's like it's bad, bad,
Yeah,
bad, bad.
yeah. My hope for this is that we have Venus applying to Jupiter in this chart into a conjunction, which is
Yes.
it's in the T square position. I mean, very loosely, by degree, but by sign, it's in the T square position, which I often think as the place of discharge. So, for like a really intense opposition like this Saturn Mars thing. So, yeah, my hope is that it mostly looks like people huddling safely out of the way of whatever this like fray is
Mm.
between Saturn and Mars. And that, God, around this full moon, folks, like just please be so aware of your surrounding, the volatility of like it just kind of seems like shit could go down. So maybe just around this full moon, like don't be in situations where, I'm kind of looking at this like a bar fight. Like it's
Yeah,
just
it does feel like a bar fight.
Yeah, like God, and you know what's really interesting is this week in class, someone mentioned that violence breaks out when people don't know how to skillfully grieve and skillfully celebrate. And I'm also thinking of that nugget of wisdom looking at this chart. Like,
Hmm.
this looks like potentially a combo of unskillful celebration. Like Jupiter and Venus together are, it's like, it's a lot of muchness. Like, I think it's
Hmm.
really positive, but it's also a lot of muchness. And then, yeah, the malefics in these signs where they lack so much dignity, yeah, kind of like calls to mind this. Like, we don't know how to grieve. We don't know how to, do anything. So we're just going to fight.
Reminds me of fussiness, like a tantrum, like throwing a
Hmm.
fit. When you Mars and Saturn are not just bad, it's like they're working to accomplish things just like every other planet. And when they're in detriment and fall, it's like harder for them to do the things that they need to do that are not necessarily good or bad. They're just things that need to happen. And I think this situation and fall and in detriment, it's like they can't do the things that they're called to do. They can't live into their calling. And
Mm.
so, yeah, it's like when somebody throws a fit because they didn't get the food they needed or the nap they needed or whatever. That's the
Hmm.
bar fight. That's why the bar fight image really works for me for this.
Yeah, yeah. It's and just the Leo Aquarius too. Like the sort of personal ego and the like yeah, the systems of yeah, the sort of like lateral systems that we might think of as just like the people. Um
Yeah.
I'm wondering if a certain leader is going to have a
Yeah.
certain bitch fest under this like full moon.
Yeah.
Again, it's this kind of like train wreck. Like you don't want to be in it, but it's hard to look away.
There won't be anywhere to hide, I think, from this full moon, is
Yeah.
what I feel. It's like covering so much of the chart. It's like no matter where you turn, there's going to be an aspect of this full
Hmm.
moon experience. I was just thinking another thing is that Mars and Uranus are trine for this. So Mars and Saturn are opposed and trine Uranus too. So there's this what is it, what is Mars Uranus with a Jupiterian aspect, like what does that create? It's like they have access to each other's energy and the things that they're working to accomplish are falling into place together. It's like Mars slips into that configuration that we've been keeping track of, the sextile and trine of those outers. And so yeah, I'm wondering also how that might manifest itself, that Mars is like locked in with what all is happening there.
Yeah, and if you include Pluto in that
Right.
grand air trine,
Yeah.
with like basically like a volcanic
Uh-huh.
disruptive air trine. I mean, air is this element of concepts, right? Like the conceptual. So there's a sort of mind-blowing element to this, and maybe a
Mm.
sort of like propaganda or AI or just information and technology all sort of working in concert, and maybe not in a way that we want these planets to be
Yeah.
working in
Right.
concert.
Right.
But in your own personal life, like if we're looking on kind of an individual level too, it could mark huge breakthroughs, and maybe a collective level too. Like it could mark like a huge breakthrough in ideas or information of people just saying like enough of this shit. Like what is going on? Who knows? I don't want to give it all a bad read, but we will say it is intense regardless of if it turns out to be mostly positive or mostly challenging. This is an intense chart, and it's like where to even look. I mean, we have Mercury retrograde opposite Pluto. Like there's just so much.
Yeah.
Everything's talking to everything.
Yeah, it's true. And it doesn't, not in a fun way.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, like the Venusian and Jupiterian aspects are with the malefics. There's just not a lot of good news here. I think
Yeah.
what we talked about was the idea of heaven knows where we're going and how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
That I still think that cluster of the benefics, somewhat separate from the rest of these aspects, the rest of the planets. Feels like there is hope, but it feels like distant and separated from
Mhm.
all of this drama that's playing out in the rest of the chart. So I think, yeah, there might be this sort of sense of like, I have no idea where my hope is going to come from, but it's out there.
Yeah, yeah, it's you're referencing these notes that I made of this song that I learned in seminary called Whoa Ya Ya, which was an anti-apartheid song. And basically it's we are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we'll know we're there and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. And so it is this kind of like it's a call to home, and we don't know the way, but we know we have faith we're going to get there. And so yeah, that's my little faith-based
Thank you.
interpretation of this
It's
chart.
beautiful. It's
Oh,
beautiful. The
oh.
image of home with the benefics in Cancer feels like really apt.
Yeah, yeah. Where is home? What is home? How do we make home for ourselves and our neighbors? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we take a look at the new moon?
Let's do the first of two new moons in Virgo. This is not an eclipse.
It is not an eclipse. That is important to emphasize. But it is like that. I think was it last year or the year before we had two new moon lunations in Aries, and the first one was not an eclipse and the second one was. And they tied a story together. So even though it's not an eclipse, it's in the same sign as an upcoming eclipse. And so it's kind of like a prelude to an eclipse, I think.
Mhm.
So this new moon is on August 23rd at 0 degrees Virgo. And Sarah, what did we notice about this chart as we were preparing?
Oh, we noticed a few things.
Sound
Let's
weary. We were
see.
having so
I
much fun until we pulled up the lunations.
The lunations were not encouraging really to look at. So, and
Yeah.
as people who are solar and lunar in different ways, it was like, ooh, this is kind of ugh.
Boo.
So, yeah, a few things. For some reason, I'm really focused on where Saturn is for this moon, and I think
Hmm.
it's Saturn is retrograde and right at the door of going back into Pisces. So
Hmm.
I think I'm really noticing that as we're continuing to track Saturn through its first retrograde after
Hmm.
going into Aries, and here Saturn's going to go back into Pisces, and so we're going to probably tie, thread, stitch together the themes of the Saturn and Pisces story with whatever is emerging in our Saturn and Aries story. So I'm very aware of that.
It's like Saturn's like, oh, don't worry, I'll be involved in the eclipse story.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wait, is there something happening back here? Okay, oh, I'm coming. I'm coming over here, you guys. Don't leave me behind.
Remember March?
Um,
Wasn't that so fun?
yeah, like I don't want to miss out on these eclipses. Let me just march on back over here for this. Yikes. Yeah, I think that's interesting too. Like right as we're going to come into eclipse season, Saturn's like, not wanting to be left out of the party, but also noticing like and so this is Virgo, and so I'm also gonna want to be noticing what's happening with Mercury, and so
Hmm.
thinking about what's happened in the Mercury retrograde story for you so far. I think that's also going to be illuminated, even though it's a new moon. It's going to be the new moon. I think will be tied to whatever that Mercury retrograde story
Yeah.
has been unfolding
Yeah.
for us all. And also Mars is, now in Libra, so Mars is off this place where the South Node has been, and I wonder if a new moon there, whatever that Mars South Node experience was for folks in July, I think this is a time to also sort of look at like what might that feel like? What might a
Mm.
new moon there feel like with Mars kind of out of the picture?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, we have this very tight square with Uranus, which is like, oh boy. And, I think we've been having some squares between these two signs this summer. Like we had the Venus Mars square here, which was involving the nodes. And I'm thinking these two signs are Mercury ruled. Gemini is easily distractible. It's curious. It kind of wants to be all over the place. It wants to embody multiple truths, right? And so, on one hand, we have the revolutionary in that place. And then this new moon getting ready for eclipse season in this place that really wants order and
Order.
categorization.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's some conflict here. And so I think on a personal, interpersonal note, we might be thinking like, oh, what kind of order needs to happen that still leaves room for surprise, upheaval, revolution,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if we're thinking politically,
Mm.
collectively, it really organizing
Hmm.
and like resisting often are these like conflicting movements or conflicting energies within movements, right?
Yes.
Where people are like activism, like just like it's like random, like go out and shout against it,
Mm.
and Virgo's like, can we get organized? Can we please get our shit together? Like, it's not going to work if we don't have a unified message. It's not going to work if we don't have a plan of action. And so I can really see that, yeah, that happening on like a collective and a personal level in this chart.
It's really powerful to talk about just the concept of organizing, right? Like community organizing,
Mm-hmm.
as like Virgoan, and thinking about, yeah, being connected to Uranus. Like I've never participated in any community organizing where the people who did the best with whatever it was were the people who knew how to pivot, the people who knew how to take whatever the Uranian thing was that happened, right? Like organizing a protest, organizing a movement, organizing something where you want to make progress. There is always something Uranian that happens there. There's always a little chaos monster that gets dropped in. And the most successful movements I've been a part of were led by or infused with the skill or quality of like, okay, yeah, that wasn't expected and that was really disruptive and we weren't planning on that. And here's how we're going to pivot together. That's a really
Yeah.
great a way to talk about this.
Yeah, and it's a bummer, and it was something I've been a little concerned about with the South Node in Virgo is a kind of like a lack of organization,
Uh-huh.
a release of organization favoring the Pisces side of things, which could be like spiritual bypassing or just kind of like getting lost in the sauce. And I've even noticed this in some of the resistance movements that are happening like in our country or something. It's kind of like protest, and I'm like, well, I love that there's so much energy and people want to show up and with their signs, at a thing, but like, is that the strategy by which real change is going to happen? And we live in just such a like instant
Yeah.
gratification kind of thing. That's a very Gemini and energy, right? Is like, oh, I'll just show up and do this thing and then I'll be done. Right. And it's like, oh, no, 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 sweet summer child. Like, these movements take years, they take organization. So, if you're listening to this and you want to be prepared, I would say get involved with organizers, with people who are organizing for real change,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to be really tempting. Whatever, I remember this coming on the heels of that crazy full moon that we just looked at. This is sort of like clean up in aisle 7, right? Like,
Yeah.
whatever happened, now we have to contend with it. And yeah, that would be my charge, would be like contend with it with people who are organizing.
That's a really good way to think about it. It makes me think that every year there's a new moon. Well, it's usually eclipses, but it's important to think about like what starts with the south node, right? Like
Mm.
what is planted co-present with the south node? How do new moon kind of energy, again, usually eclipse energy, working with the south node? It's like it just feels like you were kind of alluding to. It's just like it's a major portal to the past, the future, like our universal experiences. I don't know.
Mm.
It's powerful to think about that for this.
Yeah.
And again, we don't usually have the opportunity to think about it outside of the eclipse experience. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
unique moment that we have this new moon with a south node.
Yeah. Something that you said brought to mind the horrific floods that killed so many people in Texas, and thinking about the lack, the dismantling again of information giving systems. So, like weather
Yeah.
services, and right, that could have helped people avoid
Yeah.
that tragedy, which is like laid out so literally with the North Node and Pisces, which we have associated with flooding and correlated
Floods.
with floods in history. And so there is also a piece of this that is like not only like getting organized, but remembering what information is no longer available to you
Yeah.
and what you need to do instead, and to say like, okay, no one's gonna warn me about flooding, so like I need to find that information myself or use other things or be prepared for, yeah, the ways in which information is being kept from me or just completely annihilated anyway. Yeah, wow, I did not think about that until now, and it's kind of like blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I'm sitting here a little speechless. I'm thinking about how here in hurricane territory and in hurricane season, there's a lot of talk going on about the defunding of national organizations that keep track of weather, and that if there's no one watching those tools and instruments and reporting on those things and a hurricane comes, we're going to be in a lot more peril than we would normally be. And we're already in peril in Houston
Yeah.
when it's hurricane season. And so, yeah, you pointing out that the flooding in the hill country was flooding, North Node in a water sign, and lack of information, lack of ability to communicate, South Node in a Mercury sign. Like that's actually really powerful to think about.
Yeah. And hopefully empowering to some extent that, in terms of like disaster preparedness, how do we, yeah, like how do we anticipate and how can we best prepare, which is such a Virgo word,
Yeah.
right? I feel like disaster preparedness is just like Virgo, and right. Um, because that's the sign that's responsible for getting us through the winter. It's responsible for a good harvest. So, yeah, how do we rebuild those systems ourselves? And yeah, and be prepared for surprise, which is that Uranian element in Gemini here, that square. So, okay,
All right.
delineations.
Okay.
We're doing it. All right. Anything else about this new moon?
Nah.
Yeah, I think we're good. Cool.
Place to stop.
We've done it. We've done August. It hasn't even started yet, but we've done it. Happy birthday, Legend Sarah. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And yeah, anything to share? Anything coming up that you wish to share about?
No, I guess like we could say we're talking about our fifth year of the Advent devotional and some maybe creative things that we're going to do for this coming year. So stay tuned about that and be thinking if you want to spend your Advent with us. If you haven't before, this would be a great time to start. And if you have, there might be a little bit of a flare coming your way this year.
Yay. It's so fun. It's so sweet. It's one of the like, it's such a sacred project for me to write half the days of Advent for folks, personal reflections on the transits and the season. And it's always like so, it's like a labor. It really is
It
like this
is a
season of
labor.
labor of Mary giving birth, right? Or being pregnant and giving birth. And it really feels that way, like this labor of love, of ideas and just this like holy dark time that I just so love sharing with you and with all of the folks that subscribe to the devotional. So yeah, start getting that on your radar, everyone. And I will also add to the news that the end of October, so I think it's the 24th, 25th, it's like the weekend before Halloween. I'm going to be in Tucson giving a workshop, a weekend long workshop on empathy and astrology. So I'm going to be applying, I just finished my certification, my level 1 certification for empowerment therapy. So I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
and I'm applying nonviolent communication method and person-centered therapy to astrology. So basically, this weekend is going to be spending time with other folks, looking at your own chart and learning about how to be personally empowered through the needs and strategies that emerge out of your own chart, and how to like be more skillful in relationships with others as well. So I'm really excited about that. And if you're interested in that, please reach out to me and stay tuned for some more specific details. I'll be like, emailing them out and all that in the coming weeks. All
Wonderful.
right. All right. Thanks, Star Pals. Thank you, Sarah, as always. Take care.